The year is 476 AD. A Germanic warlord forces the last Roman emperor to abdicate, and an empire that ruled 60 million people for 5 centuries
But what if that morning
never happened? What if the Roman Empire simply never fell? Stick with me, because the answer isn't just more Rome. It's a completely different 2026. Different borders, different religions. Maybe a world where English, French and Spanish were never invented. And it all comes down to one decision made 1700 years ago. First, let's be honest about why Rome actually collapsed, because the divergence point matters. It wasn't one barbarian invasion. It was decades of currency debasement and political assassination, and an empire so vast that Rome itself could barely defend its own frontiers. In 285 AD, Emperor Diocletian tried to fix it by splitting the empire in two. The western half never recovered. The eastern half, ruled from Constantinople, survived another 1,000 years. So here's our divergence point. What if the West had made the same reforms as the East? What if a stronger emperor had crushed the currency crisis a century earlier? Before the migrations reached the Rhine, Rome survives the 5th century intact. No sack of Rome, no fall of the West. Just one continuous empire, from Britain to the Persian border, still standing in 2026. Let's fast forward. 15 centuries of uninterrupted Roman continuity. No collapse, no reset button. First casualty of this timeline actually look your like? Language. Latin never fractures into French, Spanish and Italian. Instead, one unified Neo-Latin becomes the world's dominant tongue, from Scotland to the Persian Gulf. Religion changes too. Christianity still rises. Rome adopted it in 380 AD, either way. But without a power vacuum in the West, the Church never becomes a political superpower. No Holy Roman Empire, no medieval papal states. Because the real empire never needed replacing. And here's a twist almost nobody expects. The Renaissance might never happen at all. Why? Because the Renaissance was literally the rebirth of Roman knowledge that had been lost. If Rome never falls, that knowledge is never lost. Science just keeps advancing. Uninterrupted for 2,000 years straight. No dark ages, no centuries lost to collapse. Some historians argue Rome was already close to an industrial revolution. Water mills, complex gears. Without collapse, that spark might have caught fire 1,000 years earlier than it did. Imagine that, a Roman industrial revolution arriving in the year 800, not 1800. That's a 1,000-year head start on everything that came after. Now let's talk borders. This is where it gets wild. The fall of Rome created hundreds of small kingdoms. France, Germany, Spain, Italy. Every one of them was born out of Rome's corpse. In this timeline, none of that fragmentation ever happens. Not one of those borders gets drawn. A single continuous Roman state, or successor empires that split peacefully, not violently. No Franco-German rivalry, no World War I, no World War II as we know them. Instead, the modern superpowers are Rome, Han China, and a Persian rival holding the East. 3 ancient civilizations that never collapsed, trading, negotiating, and testing each other's borders. Trade routes shift too. The Silk Road becomes one continuous Roman-controlled highway across the world. running from the Atlantic coast of Portugal all the way to the borders of India. And the Americas? Still discovered eventually, but by Roman ships, not Spanish ones. Imagine Roman legions, not conquistadors, stepping onto those shores for the very first time. Here's the part that really messes with your head. Entire countries you know today simply wouldn't exist. No Germany, because the Germanic France, and Anglo-United Kingdoms that founded them never get the power vacuum they needed. No Viking Age either. A Roman navy patrols the North Sea, and those long ships never sail. Even your calendar could be different. The Gregorian reform came from a 16th century pope. In this world, that correction arrives from a Roman emperor instead, centuries earlier. Democracy might look different too, shaped by ideals that were never rediscovered because they never disappeared. Maybe the Republic never fully dies. Maybe the Senate keeps checking the emperors for 2,000 years. Instead of collapsing into pure autocracy, the way it very nearly did in our own history. It's a strange thought. The empire everyone associates with decline might have been history's most stable state. Of course, this is speculation. History doesn't run in straight lines, and a surviving Rome could still have fallen later. Plagues, climate shifts, or a rival we haven't even mentioned. The fall of Rome but here's what's inevitable. Historians still argue about the exact tipping point, which means our own civilization's inevitable problems might not be so inevitable either. So, which detail surprised you most? The lost Renaissance? The Industrial Revolution 1,000 years early? And subscribe, because next time, what if the Library of Alexandria
see you on the bright side?